Hi, this is Zak Mir with the Bulletin Board Heroes here on Share Talk for Friday, the 27th of November. Starting off with Bezant Resources, where you can see that shares are back at the 50-day moving average there. That's the blue line, 0.23 pence, but a little bear trap below that earlier in today's session. You can see if you look back earlier this month and also at the end of September, any dips towards the, dips towards the 50-day line have been followed by decent rallies, so we'll see whether that happens on this occasion. So if you're looking for a buy trigger, I suppose the best one probably at this stage would be an end-of-day close above the 20-day moving average at 0.27 pence, which is also a line of resistance from the middle of the month, and that peak we had near 0.5 pence. Stop loss at this stage back below 0.2 pence, the initial, or 0.19 pence, the initial November floor. On to a stock which is looking as though it's shaping up to do decent things. Here we have Concepta, currently in a bull flag above previous resistance, which is normally a pretty good setup. That previous resistance around 1.4 pence, so we're above that on an end-of-day close, looking forward, looking towards 2.2 pence, which is a resistance line projection from January. In fact, if this is the bull trap above resistance that we're looking at the moment, then we'd actually see a better and bigger target there towards 3 pence on the basis that this is just a intermediate type of maneuver, and we should actually see the shares accelerate to the upside relatively quickly. If you're cautious on the stock, maybe wait for an end of day close back above the intraday high of November to date at 1.75 pence, and that would then target 3 pence hopefully by the end of the year. COVID plays gradually recovering, or at least stabilizing. Worth looking at 4D Pharma today after its a rather hectic price action that it's had between August and now. We've got a little trend line break there from earlier in the month. That's around the 95 pence level. And also basically having a double bottom there at 88 pence with the initial November support. So that's a plus point there as well. Probably just looking for an end-of-day close through the 20-day line at 102. If you're cautious otherwise, you'd assume that while we're above 95 pence, we could at least test November resistance sometime during December or January. Minimum on the upside, hopefully no less than the 50-day line currently at £1.17. Rather surprised that we haven't seen more of a flurry in the likes of Lansdowne Oil and Providence and even San Leon, given that they're all exposed to the Barry Rowe story that appeared in the Irish press yesterday after the market closed. We have seen a gap to the upside through this October resistance line there. Let's call it around the 2.1 pence a level, at least while we're above the October line at 2 pence. Still looking for significant upside. That would be towards the top of a rising trend channel from January, currently pointing at 3.5 pence, but that's a technical outlook. Clearly developments at Barry Rowe would be cause a different situation in terms of the share price, but above 2 pence, looking for 3.5 there on Lansdowne. Onto a stock which I haven't looked at very much, but here we have Mirriad advertising continuing to stretch to higher ground. The top of the channel there from April heading up towards 65 pence, which is the technical target, hopefully by the end of the next month, while we're above initial November resistance at 40 pence. I suppose the tightest you can have the stop loss would be to say that we are looking for further upside while we're above the initial November resistance, or the second November resistance rather, at 45 pence, but I think 40 pence is probably the level of the stop loss ahead of a potential 65 pence technical target. Few traders looking at the following stock, Metals Exploration, which I think is correct from a technical perspective. We've seen the stock bounce off the floor of a rising November trend channel at 1.5 pence, and really while we're above that, looking for potential retest of the peak seen last month around 3 to 3.5 pence. Maybe if you want to wait for an end-of-day close through the 20-day moving average at 1.85, you could, but really with the bounce off the price channel floor and while we're above the 50-day line at 1.65, we should see a retest of the best levels of the year to date. Good to see the following stock back on the leaderboard. Here we have Orosur Mining bouncing off 2 pence, which was the old initial October resistance, so that sort of adds up, with a strongly rising 50-day line at 22.5 pence, and we've just broken a line of resistance from last month at 23, but at least while we're above the 50-day line, 22.5, looking for, I suppose, back to the resistance on the way down, which was around 35 pence. Big picture target maybe over the next couple of months up to 50 pence plus, which is the top of that rising late September price channel. Worth looking at Orphan again, not purely on the basis that it's probably suffered the least in terms of COVID plays that we've seen. Maintained almost all of its 1 year rally from below, well, sort of a year and a half rally from below 5 pence. Current situation is that it's good support here for the stock, consistent support at the 50-day line and an uptrend line from September at 23 pence. And while we're above that, looking for at least a retest of last month's resistance at 32 pence. Not really anything which looks like it'll stop this situation, apart from maybe getting an end of day or end of week close above the 20-day average. Big picture target here over the next 1 to 2 months as high as 45 or 47 pence, which is that March resistance line projection on the daily chart. Stock which I haven't looked at largely because it was rather and is rather illiquid, but looks like we've cleared all the near-term resistance here, all the major resistance here on Red Emperor, so in the 0.7s and the 0.8s. End of day or end of week close above 0.85. The last resistance for November could take the shares up to towards the top of the rising trend channel from early last year, heading as high as 1.4 pence. The reason for the relative optimism here is because we had a massive gap to the upside during the weekend, with the shares have made no attempt to fill that, so it does look as though this is a pretty strong technical situation. Speaking of strong technicals, we've had Starvest being one of the best performers of the year, coming up from around the 2 pence level to 22 at best. Looks like there might be another final flourish for 2020, breaking above the 50-day line at 18 pence, and while we're above that on an end-of-day close basis, the possibility of 25 pence at the top of that rising 2020 channel as soon as the end of next month. Stop loss really back below 17 or 16 pence, which was earlier support in November. Probably the next stock is not one that's going to please the bears. So here we've got supplyatm Capital. Here we had I suppose the overshoot on the downside. We should have hopefully stopped around the 0.4 area, which was resistance in April and then became neckline support in September, but we sort of pushed down towards the 0.3 zone. Current position is that while we're above 0.32, 0.33, which is the floor of the rising trend channel from April, we should see further upside. Initial target here up towards that line of resistance from August at 0.5 pence. Big picture target for the first quarter of next year, possibly up to the 1.1 pence area, which is the top of the channel. But as I said, all of this really relying on there being no sustained price action back below the August uptrend line at 0.33. Finishing off with a rare situation. Not only do we have an hourly chart here, but we have a stock which has only just come to market in the form of a SPAC, I believe. But interesting that Kistos has already been sort of flying in its own particular way. This is, as I said, is the hourly chart, and really from the middle of yesterday when we gapped through the 110 level, we've maintained that momentum in a rising trend channel on the hourly chart, and current setup is that while we're above £1.15, which is the floor of the channel, we get head as high as £1.35, hopefully over the next couple of weeks. So that might be a setup that some people enjoy if they want to trade a situation relatively close to the market. That's it from me today. More updates hopefully over the weekend.